Hi everyone, Aiden here at Etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Hollywood Racks Destination e-bike rack, and we're going to see how it fits on the back of our 2023 Rivian R1T. So if you're looking for a bike rack that can handle some somewhat heavier e-bikes and includes a ramp for easier loading and unloading, the Destination e-bike rack is a pretty solid option in my opinion. You can handle up to 70 pounds per bike and carry up to 2 bikes here. We're primarily holding the bike by the frame with a frame clamp, and that can be adjusted along this back mast, rotated around, so it adapts really well to alternative frame bikes. Although, because it holds onto the frame, it's not going to be the best fit for carbon frames, so just something to be aware of. But in that same note, if you've got any fenders on the wheels, that's going to be okay because we're not relying on the wheels to hold the bike down. In addition though, you'll have 3 wheel straps at the bottom just as secondary points of contact that give the bike a lot of stability in the rack here. This rack does have a tilting feature, and the hand knob to control that is going to be located just under the back mast. You can just loosen it and push it away, and then you can push the rack away from you. Now because the actual pivot point is located so far towards the back, it doesn't make it feel like all that weight is on you. Makes it a lot easier to tilt away in my opinion, especially just with one person. And although it doesn't give us enough clearance to lower the tailgate on our Rivian, we can see here, it does come into contact pretty quickly, or would come into contact. It gives us plenty of room to step in here and grab something out of the back if we needed to. But like I said in the beginning, the Destination comes with an included ramp. So when you're ready to unload your bike or load it up, you can just expand it out and set it up by your rear tire, giving us a much easier ramp up or down when loading the bike. We'll start unloading by first undoing the straps at the wheels. There's going to be a gray button on the outside edge, and you just pull the ratcheting strap out. 1 for the rear tire and 2 for your front tire. We can then come up to the frame where we've got a clamp and a hand knob. This part is lockable, so it'll keep your bike secured to the rack. And once you've opened that clamp up enough, you can just pop it out around that frame and just twist it out of the way. And since we already have our ramp set up, all we have to do is wheel it back. For us today, we don't have the space to actually ramp this all the way down, but you can kind of see the angle you'd be working with. Because the Rivian does have taller ground clearance, it will be a steeper ramp. And when you're done, you can pack the ramp back down, and you will need to keep it somewhere in your truck. Luckily, you've got the gear tunnel, so you can just keep it in there. And this serves as a good point also to keep your helmet and your shoes, or just have a nice place to sit down and change your shoes before or after your ride. So the lack of tailgate clearance isn't that big of an issue for me. With the bikes unloaded though, we can get a few measurements, starting off with our ground clearance. The lowest point at the back end is actually going to be these outside edges of your trays, which is 23 inches from the ground. Again, this is a pretty tall vehicle with a tall hitch, so I don't think you'll worry about bottoming out here. It's just a matter of how steep that ramp is going to be. But then from the bumper to the outer face of the rack, we're looking at 28 inches. So for a 2-bike rack, it doesn't stick out too much, but it's still something to be mindful of as you're driving around and pulling into parking spots. We can fold the rack up for easier storage though, if we wanted to leave it in the hitch between rides. It's just a process that's going to take some getting used to because there are a lot of touch points. We'll start off though by folding down the mast. There's going to be 2 rubber straps on either side of it and 2 handles that we need to pop open. Once we fold that mast down, we can re-engage the handles and throw those straps back on. Those are just safeties to make sure the handles don't pop open. But once that's folded up, we can go down a little bit near the license plate on our R1T, pop out this pin and retaining clip, and fold the rack upright where it will align with some new holes, and we can just repin it using that same pin we just pulled. Again, this is the one thing that people around the shop don't love as much about this because there's just more steps to it. But it does clear with the back of our Rivian here, no contacts being made, and it will reduce the distance it's sticking out by quite a bit, only adding 11 inches to the bumper now. So a lot easier to drive around with and pull into parking spots if you want to leave it in the hitch. A few things to note with it folded up though. Your license plate and backup camera are going to be pretty obstructed since they do sit so close to the hitch. And that's pretty much true for any hitch mounted bike rack. Again, just because of the proximity between the license plate and that hitch. On this particular rack though, it sits pretty high up and it's not the best looking. So we do stick up above the tailgate a little bit and it almost completely blocks our light bar with this top tray. The good thing is it's not super wide and we're not blocking the outer edges of that light bar where we're going to get essential functions like brakes and turn signals. It's just something to keep in mind because it will be taking away from the overall looks of the truck. At the bottom, this is going to fit into our 2" by 2" receiver tube, and it does come with a locking pin. That lock is key-like to those hand knobs up top to lock our bike up, so you only have to keep the one set of keys with you. Now if we move back a little bit, we'll find the integrated anti-rattle device. Just tighten this up, and what it'll do is draw and bind against that hitch pin to create a really solid fit in the hitch. I personally like this style quite a bit because it's much easier to line up that hitch pin hole, and it means you don't need a tool to tighten that down. This is just a really easy hand knob that you can loosen up or tighten down by hand. Aside from all the touch points to fold the rack up, I do think that this is a really nice bike rack, just because it does fit well on the R1T here, but also it's just easy to use in terms of the tilting and the included ramp. There's other bike racks out there that have an included ramp, but for me personally, the Hollywood Racks is my favorite. It's the easiest to use, it's very easy to install, and since you've got the gear tunnel, it doesn't matter that there's no place on the rack to store it. If you're looking for an alternative, I would recommend something just a little bit more in the premium price range, and that'd be the Thule Epos, and get the ramp attachments separate. It is going to be a much bigger investment, but it's going to be a much nicer bike rack. And again, if you choose to opt for that ramp, you can store it in the gear tunnel, and it's going to make the whole thing really easy. But if you are looking for a good value option, and you're willing to look past the folding, then I think the Hollywood Racks Destination e-bike rack is an excellent option on the 2023 Rivian R1T. My name's Aiden, and thanks for watching.